He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
You can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns. What's right? I want to have a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
You know, is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
Very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke. Welcome back to Auto Off Topic. How goes it, Brad?
Andrew, it goes wonderful.
Cool.
We missed a week there, and for that, our sincerest apologies.
Yeah, sorry. The free content was shut off for a week.
Yeah, it's been busy times. I had a bunch of stuff going on, and you had a bunch of stuff going on, and here we are. So,
yeah,
unfortunately,
time. What's that?
A lot of it wasn't car related.
Oh, I had car related stuff.
I had some car related stuff, but I mean, a lot of my time. I went to a bunch of concerts last week. It was weird. It was like I was 20 years younger.
Oh, I mean, I had time to do car stuff, so I took that time.
Very cool. Well, it's about time because it's been winter time there, and now it's not. So now you can do car stuff. So we're happy.
That's right.
No, I went to concerts last Tuesday and last Saturday, and then a baseball game last night. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. I've been busy. I've seen 2 movies last week. Like, it's been a busy. We were just talking about it. Like, we're sitting home, and Naomi was lamenting going to the store to buy something for dinner, and I was like, "Don't. We've been going nonstop for like 7 days. Like, just sit on the couch. We have enough food to figure out something for dinner. It'll be all right." So there's a little bit of car stuff got done. So we'll get into that later. But yeah, it's been busy because you know what? We're humans with lives.
What movies? What movies are out right now?
I went and saw Air, which is the Nike Michael Jordan story.
Oh, right.
Which is highly recommended. I went into it saying, how are a bunch of rich Hollywood douches going to make a movie about a bunch of rich corporate douches who use child labor to make millions of dollars and make me care about the characters? And they pulled it off. Not going to lie. I was fully invested. Even though I know how the story ends, I was fully into it the whole time. So
yeah, the guy owns a NASCAR team now. Can you believe that?
Yeah. It's a slight spoiler alert. It's about Michael Jordan, and he makes a lot of money. The man makes $400 million a year passively because of his deal with Nike in 1986.
Oh man, you got to get that passive income.
$400 million a year passive income. Yeah. So anyway,
why doesn't he own all of NASCAR then?
Right. That's just his Nike deal. That's not all the other money he makes. So I watched that, and we also watched a slight car-related movie because all of them have a car in them. We watched the new John Wick movie. So,
oh yeah,
yes, it was predictably violent and gory and gunplay full, not playful gunplay.
I mean,
full of gunplay.
Part of the appeal of those movies that they just keep delivering the same movie over and over again, and I'm fine with
it. Just shut your brain off and watch it happen. The only disappointment I had this time was they went a little heavier on the CG, and it was obvious in a couple of spots. Like, without spoiling the movie, there was a scene with cars, and every time a car hit one of the gunmen, it was the same Black 5 Series that they computer generated.
Okay.
But it was supposed to be just like random traffic, and it wasn't.
Did you watch Nobody?
Yes. That was just John Wick with a different actor.
But it's the John Wick universe.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
So that's why he drives a Barracuda?
Mm-hmm.
Because John Wick drives a Barracuda in this most recent John Wick movie. Also, which always made me upset that they wreck old muscle cars, But in this movie, that car was computer generated because they smash it like 5 times and it never has a dent.
Oh.
So that was a little bit of a disappointment. But nonetheless, the movie was quite entertaining, as John Wick movies are. Just shut off your brain and go. So, and the concerts I saw were Spirit Box with Spirit Box was the headliner, and they were opened by After the Burial, and then I saw Mastodon and Gojira. So, metal bands. Good times, though. Good times. Anyway,
Cool.
non-car stuff. Moving on. What's the topic tonight, Andrew? What are you talking about?
Well, there's never any topic lately, but I pulled the G20 out of storage for the winter.
Excellent.
I'm getting ready I'm going to a track night in America tomorrow. I mean, car was pretty well set up. Tires were all low, the same amount, so like normal air loss. It's got oil, it's got coolant. Oil's like, I don't know, I'll change it after this track day because I changed it kind of the middle of the summer last year. So, what else? I threw the strut bar on the front. The rear,
That is the what brand strap bar?
Carbing.
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 A Japanese brand, right?
Yeah. It's like Enjoy Sports or something. I forget what it says on it.
One of those fun Japanese.
It's like
translations.
Enjoy Motoring and Sports or something.
Sports powered by sports.
Yeah, and then the rear one, I was like, oh, let me see how this goes in. And it's kind of weird. I think I have to take out the package tray and put it under it. I got to look into it more. I was like, you know what? I got to take the package tray off to do the speakers. That's a later problem. I'll do that later.
Ain't no make time for that.
Well, I got to it's annoying to get to it. I got to take the back seat out, but I'm like really fast at doing that now because I had it out a couple times. And then I've got, I think it was last year, the year before, I did the rear brake lines because that one was plugged, which was weird. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, it was making the ABS do weird things.
It was making one of the brakes not work.
Yeah.
And then additionally, the ABS also didn't work at that time.
Oh, that's true. That was unrelated.
Yeah. So I never did the fronts, and I mispurchased braided lines on Bai, thinking I was buying a set, but I was only buying a single front one.
Okay.
For like $100.
It's a lot of money for a brake line.
I mean, they're endless. They're like really nice, like braided, covered with a
endless credit card payments to pay off.
and
Endless is a storied like Japanese brand though. Like they still to this day sponsor like full Japanese touring cars.
Yeah.
So that's cool stuff.
The fronts are identical. There wasn't a left and right. You could use them either way. They're kind of cool the way they were set up. Like, so you've got the line where it transitions from the hard line on the car to the soft line. Then it goes down to like a piece that mounts the strut. Well, it's not the strut. It's the knuckle on this car. And then it goes over to the brake caliper. And in order to make it fit on both sides and also work with the banjo bolt, because the factory banjo is like really tall or thick, it came with like a copper spacer and then 3 crushed gaskets. So you like build it up with a spacer.
Interesting.
Or it's a brass spacer.
So it was a well thought out package, which is why you buy a name brand like Endless versus, some off the shelf eBay part.
Yeah, and then where it, the middle piece where it mounts to the knuckle is actually slidable on the hose. So it's not like the hose is split there. You can just slide it to where it fits. And then it had these 2 rubber pieces. So once you got the hose positioned the way you wanted it with the bends in it, you slid the rubber pieces towards the metal bracket part. And then it had 2 little hose clamps, like spring clamps, you put over the rubber pieces and it holds the hose in place. Yeah, really like finicky, but cool.
Oh, I like it. That sounds like
Um,
something that'd be very like a JDM part. They always have that like little extra, you know, little extra finish stuff to them versus buying a again generic eBay thing.
and you may be like, but Andrew, you only did the front lines with braided and the rears are not. Well, I've talked about this before. I think the G20, the brake bias is set up like insanely front bias. It's almost like 90% front. The rears basically do nothing. So I wasn't even worried about it because they're brand new, just OEM style rubbers in the back.
Sure. And brand
They
new
don't really do
lines
much
are
work.
honestly totally fine. So
The fronts do all the work, and I can actually. It's funny how you can really feel the difference when you do braided lines.
yeah, the
Like
pedal
surprisingly,
pressure a lot, right?
huh?
The pedal pressure changes.
Yeah, you can feel it through the pedal. Like it's got a stiffer pedal.
Yeah,
It's weird.
So one of my favorite cars obviously is my 78 Colt, the blue one. And
Yeah.
it's just because it's fun. Like it doesn't have any, I don't know what it is about the car, but it's just a fun car. And one of the best things about the car has always been the brakes. And they just have a really nice, like firm, their power, but they almost feel manual, like pedal feel. And I've wanted to change the brake lines in them for a while, and I just haven't done it. And I'm afraid to do it because of how good the brakes feel. So I'm
It'll
afraid to
probably make them
change
feel
them.
stiffer.
Yeah, I'm hoping it does, and not weaker. But the problem is that they're starting to show a little dry rot in the front ones, so I want to change them obviously before it becomes an issue, because that's kind of a important thing to not have dry rotted brake lines. So
See,
my brain was like, maybe they're stiff because they're dry rotted and hard, and then we're gonna put nice new soft pliable lines in there, and they're gonna suck.
well, if somebody makes braided ones,
As a 78 Colt, Andrew, nobody makes braided ones.
well, I mean, lines
I
are
could have them. I could have them made.
Yeah, they're kind of universal-ish. You can
Yeah.
have them made if you know what the ends need to be.
Yeah, I could
And
probably
it
take
does.
it apart.
Yeah, I mean, when you press on the pedal, there's enough pressure that it does expand the rubber hoses.
Oh, for
So
sure.
just by eliminating that expansion, it does make the pedal feel harder.
Yeah. So
And plus-
anyway, that's on the upgrade list this summer here is to do the brakes in that car. So
Plus, when you're tracking and stuff's getting hot, it doesn't it expands even less. So
good stuff.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I was driving around a little bit. Seems to be good. We'll take it out tomorrow. Have some fun.
I guess tomorrow's your track day, right? Where is the track day tomorrow?
Lime Rock.
Oh, that's cool. Have you done one there before? You have, right?
I did one, 2 years ago now. I missed it last summer. And yeah, the first one I could have gone to Thompson. I was like, I think I'll go to Lime Rock instead. Because I've been to Thompson a bunch. They do a bunch of Thompson. They do fewer at Lime Rock.
Yep.
So I didn't set up one for June because I'm going to Nürburgring. That'll be my track day for the month. Hell of a track day.
Yeah, that's
I'm doing Lime Rock this month. Next month, I'm trying Mass Tuning track days. Supposedly, they're pretty good.
Okay.
Doing a Saturday at Palmer, which I'd never gone to, which is also known as like Whiskey Hill, I think they call it for some reason. But it's all up. It's uphill and downhill, like switchbacks.
Okay. Palmer's the one with like elevation change.
Yeah, which I figured would probably be the best analog for like getting used to like Nürburgring.
Okay.
As far as like elevation changes and tight turns. And then I'll go to the Nürburgring, and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do in June and August and September, and the last one is like in October usually. So I've been trying to do one a month because it's a pretty decent amount of seat time for a single day.
I still haven't done any, so we'll get there. We'll get there. Maybe this.
Yeah, I did that. Change oil in the Montero. Remembered why I hadn't changed oil in like 3 years.
Because of the skid plates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I hadn't driven it enough. It took me like 3 years to put 3,000 miles on it. Actually, I think I changed it in 2019.
That's a long time ago. It's 4 years ago, Andrew.
Yeah, but I hadn't even really hit the mileage, I think, for the oil. And it wasn't using any oil.
when you have more than one car, that's kind of where it's at. Like I don't know the last time I did oil change at 3,000 or 5,000 miles on a lot of my cars because they don't get driven that much.
Well, and I'm not running the truck that hard, just
Yep.
kind of cruising around. So I'm like, yeah, it's not that big deal. Like the G20, definitely haven't put 1,000 miles on that oil, but I've been doing a bunch of track days, so I've been changing it every year.
A little more often.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I don't like the Blue Colt. I changed the oil when it got hot, but
Yeah.
other than that, I've probably done 3,000 miles in the car in the past 3 years. So it is what it is. And currently, the job that I'm working is a 1 mile commute, so I don't put a lot of miles in my cars.
I need to do the oil change on Stephanie's car, but I wanted the only place that sells liquid moly is Napa. I found, like other than
same
like
here.
going to Amazon or something. So most Napas are independent, at least around here. We found they weren't in Phoenix. I think they're like corporate owned.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't
I
go
don't know.
there
It doesn't
because the local Napa is the most laughable of all the parts stores as far as automotive knowledge goes, which stinks because Napa has access to the most parts.
Well, you can order stuff online yourself and pick it up in the store, which is
Okay.
what I found, and which is what I did today. And then I was checking out, and it said AAA membership, enter for discount. I was like, So I put it in because I happen to have one. It's like 10% off.
No, not terrible.
No. And then
I
they
don't
have a
have
rewards
AAA, so
program,
it's
just
fine.
like the other places. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Next time you need a part at Napa, like look online first and then pick it up in the store.
Yeah, I'll have to. I know their prices are not aggressive either here. They're overpriced here for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is out there, but
Well,
I
you should also probably just look stuff up online and order it in the store through the apps, even for the other stores.
Generally
You don't have
that's ever since the XR40 had GMC story. I've been doing that. It's just it only works when you think of it ahead of time. So, but I've been doing that, and honestly, just spoiler alert, we'll get into it later. The only thing I'm working on lately is a 1968 Mustang, so it's not like parts are difficult to find for that. So,
Well, you might as well get into that because I'm all done with my project updates.
oh, okay, you didn't touch the Q45 yet?
No, I haven't taken the cover off of it yet. I gotta get it out. It's been kind of raining, so I want to get it out, clean it. I take some more pictures of it.
I'm gonna be there in like 4 weeks, so my rental car better be ready.
It should be fine.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
I mean, I'll be gone. You're welcome to it.
Oh, you're not gonna be there when I'm there?
There'll be a little bit of overlap. We'll talk about it afterwards.
All right, excellent.
Yeah, I want to get that car sold because I don't use it.
Right.
But
Free the
anyway.
money up for different stuff. Yeah, so Project Cars here in Phoenix. What has been worked on? So I think I talked about the engine last podcast, right? Did I talk about breaking it down?
Yeah.
Okay. So I talked about breaking it down. Quick synopsis. It looked pretty clean. It was a 74 block, 72 Torino heads. It's a 302. It was bored 60 over. It had what looked like a pretty fresh cam with fresh lifters. It was a 2-barrel intake manifold for some reason. But everything looked good. So we brought it to the machine shop, and I will shout them out because they were awesome. It's S&S Machine Shop here in Phoenix. Went down to them. What's that?
Like S&S Machine Shop and Sale?
Actually, yeah. It's the same name, isn't it? Yeah. Anyways, S&S Machine Shop here in Phoenix. They're super cool. Naomi brought the parts down. I was not there. But when she talked to the guy, she told him everything that was going on, told him like what the plans were, what the engine was, where it came from, what we wanted to do. And he said that it would be probably 2 months to go through it. And we're like,
whoa,
it's a long time.
Ooh.
I expected like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe a week later, maybe even less, she got a phone call from the gentleman at the machine shop saying, all right, here's the deal. He goes, this engine is already bored 60 over. He goes, a 302 bored 60 over is about it. He goes, it's pretty clean looking. I don't even want to run any kind of like a hone through it just to clean it. Because it's already 60 over. He's like, it doesn't look like it needed. There's no ridges. All the cross hatching looks fine. There's no major issues. Clearances on everything are good. Heads are good. He goes, but this block is not going to take much abuse. He said, so if you're planning on abusing it, you should probably not. So his exact words were, you can put it together. It will likely be fine. I don't want to see you spend any money on this block. He goes, it'll probably be fine. It may leak, may smoke, who knows? He goes, but it'll probably be fine. No promises. Don't spend any money on anything that you can't take off and put on a different one later. He goes, and certainly don't try to put any kind of like real power adders or big cams or anything crazy in this. He goes, it's not worth it. So they did all that and checked everything. And he said, because of the situation with the block, he goes, I don't even want to charge you. He goes, so just keep us in mind for your next project.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I said. So she was like, well, about 20 hours. He goes, I love building those. Bring one by. So I'm going to bring it to an engine by to him next. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, like honestly, like these guys are super cool. They're old school shop. And like, I mean, what's more honest than not charging us and telling us what's going on with it, right? Like, he still could have charged us for checking it out. I would have paid him.
Well,
like
his ploy worked because you're going to give him more business.
He gained a customer. Yep. So we'll see what happens next. So anyway, so we have the engine back today, actually. So
well, in worst case, it's not that hard to find if you ever needed one. But honestly, the way you're going to drive the car, it'll probably last forever.
And that's what I said. I think it's worth taking the chance because we're not building a hot rod. The plan wasn't to put a big cam in it or nitrous or turbos or superchargers or any of this stuff. It was just to put, a nice normal 4-barrel setup, which in our case is going to be the Holly Sniper, TBI style 4-barrel. So it's not all those parts like he's talking about. They can be transferred to the new engine if there is a problem.
Oh, did it have valve seats set up for unleaded gas?
Yes, it already does.
All right, cool.
So the heads aren't the issue. The issue is the block. So even if the whole thing goes down, like the heads are fine. So there's not a real issue with anything here other than just put it together, hope for the best. Again, it's a boulevard car. It's not a drag car, so it'll be fine. The plan was to put a cam in it that was set up for roller rockers instead of the flat tappet style, just for longevity issues, just because it makes sense. And even if I put a cam in it that's set up like that, I can transfer that over to the new engine too. Like it's not like it's a one-time use kind of deal, right? So I think we're still going to go with the roller rocker cam and just kind of go with it and put it together. And hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, can't say we weren't warned, right?
I mean, what's it going to make? 250 horsepower?
I figure that the 74 block with the 72 heads and a more modern, intake setup on it should probably be somewhere between 250, 300 crank. So probably 200 to 250 wheel, which
that
is
feels low stress for that engine.
Yeah. I mean, it's plenty for what we're looking for. It's not, and those numbers might even be totally optimistic and I could be wrong and it could be a 180 horsepower engine. I don't know. Like the numbers back then were different. I don't know much about V8s. It's bone stock stuff, but what a 72 302 was supposedly good for like 240 or 250. So I got to figure that even a 74 or 72 heads is going to be a similar power output because the big change didn't happen in the bottom end. It happened in the heads, and the bottom end is bored over and it is clean. It is fresh. And if we have, a proper fuel injection set up on it, that's compensating for elevation and, air temp and moisture and all that stuff automatically, it's not going to be stressed. It's going to be running right. It's going to know. It's not going to ping. It's not going to knock. I think the motor will probably last a long time. So, and if it doesn't, it's a learning experience. It's not a hard engine to rebuild. So in the anticipation of getting the engine back, actually before we even heard it was going to be a week, we decided that we were going to move the car to a more accessible area to work on. This move had me questioning life choices, Andrew.
Oh yeah,
Well, you saw where it was parked.
I did.
It was the last car in the line of all the cars.
It sure
So
was.
in order to move it, I had to move the Porsche 944, XR4 Ti, the Corolla, the Blue Colt, the White Starion, and the Cressida. Now, last time you were here, we tried to make the Cressida run, and for some reason, something stupid happened and it wouldn't run again, even though you
Right.
put a bunch of time into it. I haven't bought that part yet, so that car still won't run, so that car had to be pushed. The Starion was driven into its parking spot. It runs, just not past 4,000 RPM. It would not start either. Put a battery in it out of another car, so it was fresh, just wouldn't start. Super annoying. So that car had to be pushed. Took the battery out of the brown Corolla because it has the post in the right place to run the Starion. Somehow, in the process of that, broke all the wiring that goes to the electric fans.
Really? On the Starion?
No, on the Corolla.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Is it
So
run
now
off the battery?
So, kind of.
I saw the giant thing.
You
and I was
saw
like,
the giant thing. Which
I was like, oh, I'm not going to
anyway.
look over there anymore. I'm just going to look
Yeah,
away.
listen, I didn't build it, all right? It needs to be fixed. So I was actually looking on eBay the other day and I bought a big fuse block. So I can run all those accessories to a divorced fuse off the battery. So
Do
you remember the
even
one-
a relay set up for that fan?
yes, there is a relay in the fan.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, when I hit the switch, I can hear the relay click. So I know that the problem lies on the relay to fan side, not the relay to switch side. So, but anyway, do you remember the fuse box setup we put in the Spaghetti Golf?
Yeah.
I bought one of those.
Yeah, it's pretty
So,
standard.
Yep. But it makes
Just
the
like
most
a boat
sense.
fuse panel.
Yeah, it'll clean up the battery terminals. It'll look less messy. It'll be more reliable and more safe. So, I mean, the only things that are really on that battery terminal there. So the car has an MSD box that's powered through there. It has the stereo that's powered through there, and it has a subwoofer that's powered through there, as well as the battery. The fan. So there's 4 accessories that all have individual eyelets in that battery, and I figured since I broke it anyway, I might as well fix it better than it was. So that's all got to go down. It's going to have a nice new little fuse panel. All those things will be on individual circuits, and there won't be any issue of potential fire in the future. So that's taken care of. It's not taken care of yet, but everything's ordered to do that swap. So I think that will look nicer too under the hood, if I'm not mistaken. So, because the battery's pretty ugly. Battery terminal is pretty ugly. So anyway, we got everything taken care of. Also, obviously, we had to push the Mustang as well because it has no engine in it. That being said, a engineless 68 Mustang weighs about as much as a completed 78 Colt, so it was very easy to push around. So, engineless muscle cars, very easy to move. So we got the car in a more convenient place to work on it and started to say, all right, we need to buy. So our friend Joe built that 65, 66? I don't know, 65 or 66 Mustang notchback.
Really bad.
Yep, it's one or the other. The cars are very similar. There's not really much difference. And he had done his underhood area in this like semi-gloss black paint that looked super good and super factory. So I want to do our car the same way. So I was able to, talk to him and find out what he used. So in order to do that, obviously we need to strip off the entire front of the car, the header panel, headlights, bumper, lower valance, fenders, and then all the accessories under the hood. So we started by unbolting all the accessories, the starter relay, the washer fluid container, the overflow. There's no radiator in the car, but there is a condenser because it was a factory AC car. So pull the condenser out, the wiper motor, the brake master cylinder. Turns out this car has 4-wheel manual drums, which I didn't realize. So that might be a future upgrade. So we'll get
minimum. I do a front disc conversion.
And that's what I was saying to do, is to do front disc, because the manual brakes probably aren't terrible if they're functioning proproperly. But I think that
but the drums are like an on-off switch. It's really weird.
That's what I mean. I think that running discs in the front will be a huge upgrade. The car is a factory 5-lug, which is good. So the conversion's not going to be difficult. It's not going to require buying wheels or anything else because it's already a 5-lug car. Because those Mustangs did apparently come in 4 and 5-lug, depending on engine options, which I didn't know. So, but it is a factory 5-lug car, so that'll be an easy swap. But anyway, in getting all that off, we were trying to take the front valance panel off because the front valance panel was in the way of something. I don't remember. The bumper was in the way of something. Something was in the way of something, and it required taking the bumper off, the grille assembly out, and the valance panel off. So we started to unbolt everything, and then quickly realized that the car used to be towed behind a camper. So it has, the rigging set up on the front to hook up to like a camper and then plug in the lights to run the taillights and everything. Which whoever did it legit. Like, there is a trailer style plug drilled into the front valance. It needs the front valance anyway, so I'm not worried about it because it's all bent. And then that plug is wired into the factory wire harness. So when you plugged it into the RV, it actually ran the factory taillights. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was done very well, whoever did it. But whoever put that tow bar on the front, it has these 2 giant bolts that go through the front frame rails. Now, obviously, the Mustang is a unibody car, and it has, kind of like a subframe style frame rails in the front. And it has these 2 through bolts on each side that hold this, giant, massive tow bar on the front of it. But whoever put it on there also decided that bolts weren't enough, and they welded this 1/2-inch thick plate steel onto the frame.
Yeah. And they slapped it and said, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely is not going anywhere, because we went through, I think, 4 cutting discs trying to get this thing off, and it's not off yet. We just ran out of daylight, time, energy, and cutting discs. Like, it is on there. So we need to finish getting that off. We did manage to get the bumper off. The valance panel's all unbolted, but unfortunately, at some point, the car was lightly hit in the nose, and the valance panel and this tow bar have kind of become one piece by being jammed together. So we couldn't get the valance panel out without getting... Oh, I know what it was. We tried to get the battery tray out, and the battery tray has a bolt that was stuck behind one of the bumper bracket bolts. So in order to get to that bolt, we had to pull the bumper off. In order to pull the bumper off, we had to pull all these other parts off. So it just kind of became this like snowball effect of things coming off the car. But I mean, at the end of the day, all of it has to come off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So it does need a battery tray, because battery trays rust even here in Arizona.
Well,
every bolt, every bolt we touched came right off, except for one battery tray bolt. It is one with the battery tray. It's not coming off. It's going to require a cutoff wheel. So that's slightly annoying, but I mean, it's one bolt out of all of them on a 50-year-old car. 1968 is what? 50 something years old, right? 73 would be 50. So 55-year-old car. I guess. My math right there. I think it is.
Doesn't feel like that old of a car.
No, it doesn't feel that old. Not like we were there when it was built or anything, but they just weren't that old of a car when I remember them. Like, when
we were kids, they were 30-year-old cars, and that wasn't that old.
Yet not even.
There were like 20-year-old cars. Yeah, they were not.
When I was born, this car was,
wasn't an antique.
It was 13 years old. It was like a used car. Like, it wasn't anything spectacular. I think I talked about it on Christmas time. I have that.
People were like, nah, man. Like, my 1935.
My 1935 Chevy's an
Whatever.
antique. The 68 Mustang's garbage. Nobody's ever going to restore that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Same argument, different time. So, yeah, I think I had the conversation around Christmas times. I have that Christmas ornament that was dated 1994 or 1993, and it's of a 1964 Mustang. And it was like 30th anniversary. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, put on the treatise here, and I was like, wait a second. I've had this ornament for as long as it's been celebrated its anniversary. Oh,
Ooh.
yeah. Damn it, that sucks. Anyway, so yeah, it's a 53-year-old car. So the fact that most of the bolts come off without argument is, a testament to a West Coast car. The car did spend time in Massachusetts. I will say that. So it does have some light corrosion here and there, but nothing that's not going to be repairable. The only rust through spots I'm going to have to fix are on top of the inner fenders. And I'm not even sure why it's there. It looks like it's layered metal, and probably moisture just got inside there at one point, and it just kind of festered and just ate all the way through. Not even all the way through. It's not actually a hole. It's just there's 3 or 4 layers of metal there, and it's through like the first 3 layers. So it'll just require cleaning up, welding a patch on it. It's not structural. It's just visual, and then painting over it, and it'll be fine. So, but that's what we're getting prepared to do, is getting it ready to put the engine back in it. Our friend Joe, who built that 66 Mustang, sold me all of the factory suspension parts that he took out of his car to build the hot rod. So we're going to go through all that, hit most of that stuff with the same black paint. So we're kind of organizing that. A lot of the stuff for a 68 is different than a 66, but a lot of it is also the same. So we'll probably be able to use, I'd say, about half of it, which is pretty good. So... But yeah, that's where we're at with the Mustang. It's now in a place of access, and it's starting to get torn down. And thankfully, Naomi is a very organized individual, and every bolt gets taken off, gets put in its own individual bag, or at least a set of bolts goes in a bag. So when we go to put back together, we'll know where everything is. And stuff we're not replacing, we'll be able to go back on the car. The list is getting longer as we dig into it, but that's any restoration, right? We're not trying to half-ass this car. We want it to be right. So,
Well, yeah, but at a certain point, you just got to go with what you have to get it drivable, and then you can do the other stuff after.
For sure. We're not gonna do the whole interior or the paint and body and everything right now.
Yeah, you don't want to spiral into the quote-unquote frame off, and then it's 10 years down the road. That's not how you want it to go.
No, the point of this car is to have it together, before next. It's funny to say that, but the driving season here is fall, winter, spring. So the plan is to have it drivable by fall. There are a few things that we do want. We're taking off the bumper. The bumper's bent. The valance panel is trashed. We're going to buy a new bumper and valance panel just because it will look better. Even if it's the wrong color valance, it'll look better than the trashed, smashed up one. And the bumper is just beyond repair. So we're going to buy those parts. We're going to buy a few things. But anything I'm taking off the car is going to be restored before it's put back on, save for body panels. Because it doesn't make any sense
that's
to
fine.
Put back on junk. But yeah, we're only taking off enough to replace what we're replacing.
Yeah, because it's far more motivating if you get the car to a point where it's running, and then you're like, oh, cool, now I've got a running car.
Yep.
Now I'm way more motivated to do the cosmetics.
So here's the general plan, and you can hold me to this, and any listener can. The general plan is to basically strip the front of the car, so the fenders will be off, hood will be off, valance, bumper, front suspension.
Easier to put the engine in. You don't have to worry about damaging all that stuff.
All the stuff's already damaged anyway. It doesn't matter. But that way, I'm able to take and repaint the entire inner structure of the front of the car from the firewall forward, clean it all up, make it all new. We'll be able to do all of the suspension parts without, the fenders and everything on the car. It's very easy to get in there and rebuild that whole front end with the steering, the suspension, and the brakes without the fenders on. Then everything's nice and clean and brand new from the firewall forward. Engine goes in. Everything's good. Bolt back on the tired looking fenders, tired looking hood, tired looking grill headlight bezels, and the only other stuff happening to the car while it's at that same stage is we're dropping the rear suspension and gas tank. I'm going to do the same treatment to the rear suspension that the front is getting, but we're not restoring the interior, the inner trunk, the quarters, the doors, the roof. Everything's staying untouched until all of that mechanical stuff is done. And the only reason we're doing the painting of the underhood stuff is because the engine's going to be out of the car, and it will just make everything look nice and fresh and new. And it'll be more motivating, I think, to work on something that's nice and fresh and clean and new. So that's what we're doing.
That's a fine way to do it, because it's funny, people watch these shows on TV and I think they get the wrong impression of like how to restore a car.
6
and they're like,
days.
oh, it's
we're
gonna be stripped down to bare metal, and then we're gonna paint everything that's gonna be perfect, and then we'll put the engine in it.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know. Why don't you
the biggest fallacy of
make it
all
run
those
first?
shows, the biggest fallacy of all those shows is you watch their teardown and they just rip everything off the car and throw it in a big pile. And that's where you wind up getting in trouble, because average Joe backyard restorer cannot afford to take everything off the car and throw it in a big pile and not reuse anything. And that's where I think people get in trouble, is they just get through this like, I'm going to tear this car down and that's it.
I'm gonna do
And
nut and bolts.
the next step will be easy. I see it on Gas Monkey Garage. It takes 6 days. Life is good. And 6 years later, they still have a car sitting there doing nothing now. Listen, I am guilty. I had done that in the past. I tore down that motorcycle I was doing and did not know what I was doing and probably shouldn't have. So because of that, it's still in a million pieces. And
you know how much nuts and bolts cost?
they're
You know, I say nut and bolt you? Yeah. Nickel and dime you?
Yeah, nickel and dime.
Nut and bolts will nickel and dime you.
100%. Stuff's not cheap. Even for a car like a Mustang, where you can buy everything off the shelf, but it's not cheap to do it. So we're going to keep as much as possible, restore as much as possible. The only stuff that we need to buy to make the car run is an intake manifold for that Holly that we already have.
What's that? $200?
About that. So the other issue was, in order to run the Holly fuel injection, you need a modifier gas tank, because it needs a return line for the fuel injection. It needs, a different level sender for their like setup, and it needs a different pump. So I was looking into it, and it's about $150 to have a gas tank like dipped and cleaned. Then it's $200 for the correct fuel pump, and there's level sensor this and this line, and having the tank welded. You can buy a brand spanking new 1968 Mustang gas tank from Holly that's already set up with, including the pump, including all the fittings that you already need to just bolt it into your 68 Mustang to run their Holly Sniper, including the tank assembled for $600. Even comes with new straps. So it was at least $500 without any labor just to rebuild the one we have. And I was like, it's $600. It's brand new. Why not? Like, let's just do this. It doesn't make any sense to do it the other way. So that's the only thing we're going to replace really in that part of the car is going to be that gas tank. And only because we're running that Holly Sniper setup, which requires a different fuel pump and a return line, all that stuff. So, and the car's been sitting for 30 something years. So
yeah,
I mean, not 30 years, 20, I think it was parked in like 98. So that's 25 years ago.
And then like you can get the car running. You're like, all right, cool. The car runs. You put it in gear. It moves back and forth. You can like go up and down the road.
Yep.
Up and down your street a little bit.
Yep.
You'd be like, all right, let's put disc brakes on the front of it. And then
you
can start driving it around or something.
100%. Tires, brakes, call it a day. And I may do the brakes while it's all apart and up in the air rather than do everything twice. So we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna redo all the lines and everything, so I might just do the brakes at the same time.
Since you don't have to buy heads, there you go.
We have to buy a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of there's not the biggest expenditure, like I said, is going to be the gas tank, the cam, the roller rockers.
You can throw like an aluminum radiator in it.
Yeah, which is a
electric fan conversion. That's super easy.
Yep, I'm debating whether or not we're going to go ahead and do the AC now or later. But it's a factory AC car, so they make a kit that upgrades. the factory setup.
I'd get it going, then you can figure out the AC afterwards. Because the compressor is probably right on top.
Yeah, no, the compressor is not the issue.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out what goes under dash and all that stuff. Is it easier before the car's together or not? So I just
Not
don't
the
know.
interior.
Listen, Phoenix is AC is needed here, so
It is needed, but you can get the thing running without the AC first. It's not hard to put in because it's like it was always ancillary on those cars, so it's not like buried.
yeah.
So you
it
just
was
do
a
it
fact-
afterwards.
It was
Like
a factory option. This car,
right, but like get the engine in there, get it running, and then AC's not in the way.
that's true too.
You can work on it and like make sure it's running right, and you're like, all right, cool, this thing's good.
Well, in theory, with this Holly Sniper setup,
Worst case, you get the engine in there and it's just billowing blue smoke, and you're like,
right?
I got to take it all the way back out. You don't have the AC in the way
That's true.
that you spent a bunch of time putting it back in. So
That's true. All right, Andrew.
just
you're right.
saying. Yeah.
All right, you're right. We'll let it go. So anyway, so I'm excited. It's moving right along. You know, it's different working on a project with somebody else who's invested in it. Because normally it's just me or me and you or me and whoever working on my garbage, and the only one to keep the motivation going is me. And you know, as anybody who's listened to this podcast for the past 7 years knows, motivation's not my strong point. So it's very interesting working on it with somebody else who's coming into it not as a like dyed in the wool car person who has all these plans of, you know, all these thoughts and preconceived notions of how the car goes together and how it works. And it's kind of refreshing to just like go into it like this. And
Well, I'm guessing Jordan, Naomi's son, is interested in helping out occasionally.
he is. He's just been busy, and the same thing with her brother Chad. It's just been us so far, and I'm not complaining. It is what it is. And honestly, I shouldn't even say it's been us. Like I'm trying really hard, Andrew, and you're not good at this either. And I'm sure you know it. But when you're helping somebody in air quotes, you like to take charge and just do it. Yeah. So I also have that same issue, and I don't know if it's because I spent so much time working in cars with you and your dad, but it's like instead of like sitting back and talking about something and figuring out how to do it, like the person who knows how to do it just does it. And I'm trying really hard to not be that person with this car and letting her do more of it. But yes, and that is hard to like step back and watch somebody learn how to do something when you already know how to do it, and just be like, I could have done it in 2 seconds, and here it is, 5 minutes, which is not a big deal, but I'm genuinely trying to be better at that. So I shouldn't say.
Well, I found I'll try to like, and this is sometimes even with work stuff. I'm like, all right, can I just like, I'll show you it real quick, and then I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Like if it's like 2 things to do, like I can show you, and then I'll let you do it. And I've been trying to do that more with other stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to do in this situation. So we'll see how.
That's also what having a kid teaches you, because you're watching them do stuff. You're like, I could just do that.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
They're a small child, and they need to learn how to do it.
God damn it, kid! You can't write yet. What the hell?
Yeah, come on, man.
The word is I. It's one letter. I.
This is basic.
Yeah.
That puzzle is 4 pieces, kid. Come on.
Get together. Yeah, my kid. You're your mother's kid. Yeah, no, I get it completely, and obviously that's the simplest explanation of the phenomenon I'm talking about here. But I mean, you know, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners also know, like it's really hard sometimes to sit back and watch somebody do something you know how to do, and learn how to do what you know how to do already. So, and it goes for all of us. That's just one of those things. It's you get in your comfort zone, and that's what it is. And you know, there's different levels. Like you're a more experienced, talented mechanic than I am, so that's why you do it to me. You know, and I've been working on cars more than she has, and that's why I do it to her. That's just how it works. So, but nobody learns if we don't teach. Your Zen moment for the day. But anyway, yeah, that's the big updates here. I haven't touched my own stuff. We've only been working on the Mustang. I did finally decide I'm just going to pull the trigger and buy that ignition module for the Cressida. So Otherwise, I'm never going to do anything. So I'm currently actively looking for the non $500 one. If I
Did
find
you
I'll purchase it.
check it any other way?
No. So it turns out that there is no other way to check it.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The coil can be checked. The ignition module cannot. So,
all right.
Yep.
Did you Anyway, is that all your
Yeah.
project car stuff?
that's it. That's I've washed my cars. I haven't done any project car stuff.
All right. You been watching NASCAR? What do we have? We didn't get to talk about Richmond yet.
No, I didn't really watch Richmond.
Yeah, it was kind of an okay race. It was like, eh.
All day I was trying to find out who won, and I found out who won, and I didn't want to watch the race after that.
Yeah, it was like there was a couple of good moves. Like they were moving around. There's some crossovers. Like it was that's like what it's not quite a short track, but it's like half mile, I think. Richmond.
Richmond's a short track.
It's a
I
half
don't
mile
remember.
though, I think.
That's a short track. That's the shortest track, isn't it?
Well, the Coliseum would have been the shortest track, but
Well, pre-Coliseum.
I thought Bristol was a quarter mile.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know. Whatever. Casual
Richmond,
motorsports fan. Richmond was okay. I'm like, whatever. They were at Talladega.
Yep.
This past weekend.
Richmond is a 3/4 mile.
Talladega was a good race.
Talladega was great. Yep. Yeah, no complaints about that. I watched the whole race start to finish. Enjoyed every minute of it. There was a lot of good racing. A lot of 2 wide, not a lot of 3 wide, but a lot of side by side.
Did you see the part? All right, so like, what did Joey Logano like broke a toe link or something or spun?
Yep.
And had to come back out, and then wasn't up to race speed yet. It was just like, I'm just staying in the middle of the track here, and just split the pack around him. I was like, what on earth? Like,
yeah, that was odd. I'm sure
that was like
an error.
I don't know. They were like, that was a pretty risky move because he did get picked up in the draft.
Yeah, he was getting picked up in the draft, but I assume he was trying to stay on the outside. But he didn't, obviously. And then there was a couple of moves moving into the pits, like where
they like didn't.
Spun. Yeah,
they like couldn't figure it out how to get down out of speed, or it was you had to pit at a certain thing because you were going to run out of gas.
Yep.
But if you're on the high line and somebody didn't want to let you down, it was like a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nowhere to go. So the other thing is, at the end of the race, if you haven't watched it yet, fast forward 2 minutes, whatever. Kyle Busch won the race, and the only reason he was even in position to win the race is because he either ignored or didn't hear his crew chief say, "You're not going to make it to the end of the race. You don't have enough gas. You need to come in under this yellow," and he did not. So when the accident happened, which our boy Bubba was leading, and because he's Bubba, the NASCAR world was like, NASCAR fans are like, "Oh, Bubba crashed again, of course." But I mean, even the commentators during the race were like, he had to make that move.
He had to
make. If he didn't make that move, he's getting passed. Period. End of story.
That was the move. You either made that move and won the race, or he crashed.
Yeah, you make that move, you win the race, you're the hero. You make that move, you crash, you're the martyr. So unfortunately, he was the latter. But
it was a hell of a move. I was like, I saw it. I was like, he's gonna.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what you said. True emotion, Andrew. True emotion.
Yeah.
But he came down, and the commentators have been talking all day about how his car had been too loose in the close racing, and it was just that's what happened. The car was too loose. He couldn't chase it enough, and around he went, and the big one happened, and Kurt Busch was there again to win. But hey, at least it wasn't Larson, right? So
he got
Larson got T-boned at 180 miles an hour.
That was a hard hit.
Yeah, I don't want to see the man get injured or hurt or killed, but that was a hard hit. It looks like his door bar might even have failed. Like
by our boy Priest.
Yeah, local Connecticut boy, right? Northeast driver, right?
They got into each other at Richmond. Like,
did they?
On purpose. Or was that a race before that?
Oh, I do remember that happening before. Yeah, there was a little argumentativeness going on.
Oh,
But
sorry, that was Bristol.
that was just the Talladega. That was just a racing incident. That wasn't anything.
Yeah,
I
but I was
mean,
like, oh man, of
the
all people
in-car
to hit
camera.
T-bone him, like it.
Yeah, the
It's
in-car
like
camera.
basically your
from
arch nemesis.
Yeah, the in-car camera from Priest's view was pretty obvious. He had nowhere to go.
No.
He's doing 170, 180 miles an hour, and all of a sudden there's a full Camaro in front of him. Like, it was nowhere to go. But it was a good race, and it was a race right to the finish, and I fully enjoyed it. I was pulling for Wallace, but it is what it is. He was there. He was ready to win the race. Just didn't quite get there.
He's good on super speedways.
Oh, for sure. He's not a bad driver. All these people talk about him all the time, like, oh, he's just there for, appearances and this, that, and the other thing. But the man's finished in the top 10. Like, I think 8 races this year. Like, it's pretty good.
Even my Trackhouse team, they've been like top 10s a bunch.
Oh, absolutely.
They've been front runners. At a certain point, you're like, oh, maybe Chastain's got it. Or, like,
yeah.
There was a while Suarez was out there.
Suarez led like 20 laps or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good race. There were a lot of names out front. It was not a one horse race for sure. So I fully enjoyed it. But anyway, you got a little famous this week, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
You want to talk about that?
I mean, I don't know. We voiced I'm conflicted because I like cheap racing.
Sure.
Maybe I don't like the way Lemons does it. But
we want cheap racing. We don't want cars ruined for gimmicks. And that's what your whole point was. My whole point was I'm super salty about this one particular car. For those who don't know, there was a take was posted between Andrew and I privately, and then Andrew put it on the Twitters. And then it's still kind of private there because it's only people we know, right? Essentially. And then...
Yeah, I have a public Twitter account. I mean, I told you, I was like, it was Friday. I was like, let's fight some people.
Yeah.
And I got what I wanted.
Yeah, you did, because you wound up being featured on the Autopian website this week. So, yeah, they pulled your tweet. Jason Torczynski did. And he's not happy about it. But you know what? Twitter's for opinions. So let's have opinions.
Who am I but a man with opinions?
Right. If it wasn't for opinions, Twitter wouldn't exist. So
yeah, I'm allowed to have an opinion.
100%.
That's my opinion.
My opinion differs from his, and your opinion differs from his. And our anger was over this. We happen to know the facts. It was a 30,000-mile flat body Starion, 83 first year, hood vents, the hood scoop, the different taillights, the folding mirrors, all the stuff you want in 83. Car's gorgeous, beautiful, and they justify cutting it up and turning it into a race car because, the original owner was okay with it. Well, maybe he was, but there's other cars out there you could have done it with. And then, to make matters worse, it reemerged this year as a Back to the Future tribute car with a fake nose cone on it that makes it look like a actual DeLorean. And eagle-eyed friend of the podcast, Ron, actually pointed out that is a first-gen Cavalier nose cone.
Oh.
Yeah. So, anyway, nonetheless.
It's interesting. The lines do look like a DeLorean.
100% look like a DeLorean. That's why when everybody was talking about that new Hyundai concept coming out and saying, oh, it looks like a DeLorean. I was like, it looks like a Starion. Because it looks to me more like a Starion. But everybody's like, no, it looks like a DeLorean. And I'm like, they're kind of the same design. But the new Hyundai looks more like a Starion.
No, because the Hyundai looks more like the Giugiaro, man.
Exactly. Which is why I like the flat body Starions. A, they drive better because they're narrower and they're more tossable. And B, they are the original, Starion design. The original designer wanted.
My other hot take I got crap for was the 944. So apparently, if you want to get engagement, you have to post spicy takes about things you don't like.
It's the equivalent.
Because if I post a cool picture, nobody cares.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of the gotcha lines on YouTube videos, right? Like, you won't believe what happened when I post this about a 944. But yeah, you're not, listen, I own the 944, so I have a horse in the race here with this one. And I don't disagree with your take. It's not the be all end all car. I think Starions
are better.
But yeah, we already had the conversation on the air here. I think. I also think Stargaun's are better. I've owned 5 of them. I'll own another one.
I think I have in my Twitter profile, it says Mitsubishi Apologist. So I'm going to be upset that you ruined Mitsubishi.
My Instagram says that, yes.
And, you know, it's like, I think even our Discord was like 50-50.
Yep. It is what it is. It's a good car. I like it. I fit in it better than you do for some reason. Our shape's just a little bit different, I guess. But at the end of the day, you give me 2 equal condition cars for similar money, I'm buying the Starion. So, anyway, I think that's a podcast, Andrew. Let's get more to talk about. I
don't. So anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at Race and Anger.
Yeah, or on the Utopian, apparently.
Yeah. And Auto Off Topic has a Twitter. Parked on the Block, minus the K, has a Twitter. Go find us there. Go follow us on Instagram. Go to the website. We've been posting some cool stuff. I thought that Volkswagen Brasilia that's for sale down in Florida was really, really cool.
Yeah, I want one of those. There's a bunch of those here in town because you can buy them in Mexico.
Yeah.
So a few of them here.
I mean, I think that was a good take on that. That to me, I was like, well, man, if they had allowed the air cool to continue here, that's probably what it would have been.
Yep, 100%. I agree 100%.
Anyway.
Basically, an air cooled Golf.
Yep. So follow us there. Out Off Topic on Instagram. I said on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Race and Anger. Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, TSISS350. You can also find me on Twitter, where I'm a little less active, but I am there at DeSantis_Brad.
All right, cool.
And Parked on the Block.
As always. Yeah, as always. Keep cars analog and aim for the roses.